Welcome to the Conscious Publicist Podcast, a space where thoughts become ideas to advocate for a more conscious human experience in the media. Our thoughts and ideas inspire action, and the most notable leaders and organizations have transformed thoughts and ideas into global initiatives that have impacted the lives of millions. My name is Ashley Graham, and as a woman-owned business founder and publicist, I guide leaders, visionaries, and creators in discovering their conscious media voice and methodologies that inspire connection, community, and impact through aligned media channels. In this podcast, we'll dive into public relations, thought leadership, business, and entrepreneurship, all through the lens of being a conscious human being. I'll take you behind the scenes into the habits, thoughts, and modalities that have helped leaders shift past paradigms of limiting beliefs, comparison, and self-doubt to show up for themselves to become the subject matter experts they were called to be. Subscribe to the show on Apple or Spotify and join us on this journey of awakening the conscious, enlightened leader within you. What if the answers you've been searching for have been inside you all along, and you just needed someone to help you hear them? My guest today is Janine Beeman, known as Cloud9 Intuitive, an intuitive guide and facilitator with over a decade of experience in the spiritual arts. Through tarot, channeled guidance, and her one-of-a-kind written poetry readings, Janine helps people cut through the noise, see past their blind spots, and reconnect with one thing that has always known the way, their own inner wisdom. I had the privilege of experiencing a personal reading with Janine before this episode, and I don't say this lightly. I have thought about that reading every single day since it happened. What she was able to channel and reflect back was extraordinary, and I knew I had to bring her voice to this podcast. In this conversation, we go deep on trusting your desires as your most powerful compass, how intuitive guidance actually works, and what it means to connect with your guides, the magic behind Janine's written poetry readings, why owning your spirituality out loud is an act of courage, and why the world needs light workers at the front right now, and the beautiful, perfectly timed way this very conversation came to be. If you've ever felt called to something bigger, but weren't sure how to begin, Janine's message is clear. No one knows your desires like you do. The time to trust yourself is now. We have such an amazing, unique conversation happening today. I have Janine, who is an intuitive guide, and I have had the amazing opportunity to get a personal one-on-one reading for her, which I know that we'll talk a little bit about in this podcast. Some of the things that she was able to channel and bring through for me were so enlightening. And when I tell you I have thought about that reading every single day that it's happened, I don't say that lightly. So Janine, welcome to the Conscious Publicist podcast. I'm going to ask you the $1 million question here, which is, what story and message are you looking to tell through your brilliance and your wisdom today?
Beautiful. I love this question. And I think what I want to say today specifically is that no one knows your desires like you do. No one knows our desires like we do. And the time to really trust ourselves is now. To really trust ourselves to create something new for the world, for our lives, for our families and friends, loved ones. I think it's so potent right now that I really hope that people feel encouraged and inspired to step into the fullness of themselves in this moment.
That is so beautiful, and it's actually so aligned with your subject matter expertise. When you had sent me over your bio for the episode, being able to experience what that channel looked like with you firsthand, but then also what your big picture is on who you want to serve, it really is around that mission, heart, soul led work and helping bridge the path for people to step into that work. So I love that you talked about desire and trust. And I feel both of those go hand in hand. For those tuning in who want to step into that next desire, what would you say is one of the simplest things that they can do to start walking that path?
The first thing to do is just take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. I know when I get excited about something, sometimes that manifests itself as anxiety. And if I can just take a deep breath, I can understand like, no, this is good excitement. I don't have to let that part of my brain turn on that says I should be afraid of something. I should be excited about it. Sometimes we can confuse the sensations for certain feelings are so similar that when we can just take a deep breath, we can really channel into what we're truly feeling and then transmute that energy to actually create the thing, to actually take the first step, make the first phone call, write the first line. It starts with a breath. It starts with a breath and then, okay, I can do this. And I feel like we have so much more power to do that than we give ourselves. So a lot of times we look for validation from outside sources before we say, yes, I'm going to do that thing. Right. And I just feel like it's all in your breath. You know, that's how it's coming through to me at this moment. It's all in that first deep breath.
And as you're talking about just the breath, I'm reminded one of the things that you had really spoken very clearly during our reading. You were like, I think you need to breathe more. And it was so profound just hearing you say that because it immediately mirrored back a thought that I had either earlier that day or the day before where I was like, I haven't taken a deep breath today. And it's exactly what you're saying. You know, we breathe every day. We're constantly inhaling oxygen, exhaling, right? It's something that our bodies just know repeatedly to do to keep us alive, to keep us awake, make us go to sleep, keep us thriving and moving throughout the day. There is a practice. There is a practice and muscle memory where you're like, I need to take some really deep channeled, fully in the belly breaths. And I think that it's easy for us to kind of lose track of that. And it makes such a difference when you do focus deep on the breath.
It's so true. And like you said, it's like the simplest thing, right? And the way that you see your life, it just doesn't have to be complicated. I always call myself an uncomplicated spiritualist, right? It can be so simple. We talk about transmuting energy. You can literally transmute energy just by breathing, by being, by writing down your intention. All of those are transmutative actions. And I think we try to complicate things, sometimes as procrastination, but sometimes just because it's like a fear response. And if we can just simplify, and the most simple thing, like you said, it's involuntary, is our breath. If we can just simplify and connect in with that simple truth that when we breathe, we live, when we breathe, we do, when we breathe, we are, it can take us so far. It's revolutionary for our lives.
Absolutely. One of the things that you said that I think would be really important to highlight here is that whether it's spirituality or your creativity, whatever it is, transmuting through mediums in whatever way that looks like, by writing, by typing, by dancing, by movement, whatever it is, sometimes it's just as simple as starting. That's just what came up to mind for me. And like you said, we are almost our own worst critics, the ones that stand in our way. And I feel there's definitely listeners here that I'm sure they've experienced this because it's very much a part of the visibility component and thought leadership is that sometimes we think that it's so challenging and so far beyond reach for us, but it's not. And it's not through just getting started and taking the little steps to get you closer to that desire or to that next level or whatever it may be.
Exactly. Exactly. I agree.
Well, bringing us back to the spirituality component, because that's what I feel is one of the biggest brilliance points I feel that we can have in this conversation. Tell us a little bit more about kind of your spirituality journey yourself as an intuitive guide, and what are some of the profound shifts that you've been able to bring to people, especially with stepping into that desire that they're reaching for?
My spiritual journey, I think, has been long. It's been varied. I was raised in a very super Catholic household. I went to Catholic school for most of my life. And then as I got to college and got older, I expanded out of that and started exploring different faiths, Islam, Judaism. I just wanted to learn all about the major religions of the world and some of the more minor ones. Something that I've always been really fascinated with and curious about. And that sort of shifted after I had my daughter and I developed a new relationship with my body and the creative power within my body and like understanding that God energy exists within the body, which led me into all of these different kinds of esoteric explorations. Let's just call it that, right? And I feel like I wasn't really sharing it with people. Wasn't really sharing this experience with people. It was just something that I'd been fascinated with. And then one day somebody gifted me some tarot cards. And I've always been intuitive. I know things are going to happen. I can feel energy, step into a room. I'm like a very introverted and private person just because I know how easily affected I am by energy. But when somebody bought me these tarot cards, I was like, oh, interesting. Like maybe there are people who might be interested in these messages. And I picked it up so quickly. Like I just understood what the cards were saying. And people were like, oh, wait, that makes sense. That kind of makes sense. And I'm like, okay. And then it felt like poetry to me. I'm a poet, like I'm a writer. I went to school for writing in English, and like the cards felt like poetry. It felt like a way to get a message to somebody that was a different kind of channeling energy that I was tapping into. And I just took off from there. As far as people and clients that I see, I feel like I don't like taking like credit for people's successes. I think I'm just like one of the pieces of the journey. People come and see me when they have questions about their business or their relationship or just in general wanting to get centered and clear, see around some blind spots. It can be like these grand life transitions, but it could also be just wanting to know yourself better, wanting to really get to the heart of what you do truly desire. You know, we get to these stuck places in our lives and it's like, what next? And that's how I come into play. I'm able to channel messages and deliver messages that offer clarity and help people to really hone in on what's next for them in their life, you know?
There's so many parts about that journey. And what you were talking about, your personal strengths, I feel, of how you've been able to help people is very much what I feel like conscious spirituality is. You said that you help people see past the blind spots, right?
Yep.
But everything in divination and spirituality and mindset and personal growth, whatever you label it, it really is up to that other person to have the own agency and sovereignty to pursue it on their own. But then
Yep.
everyone else, yourself, listening to podcasts or looking to other support systems, it's just to help them reflect back their strengths and what is possible for them. And I feel that is why I was so excited to have this conversation with you, is because you just affirmed what I feel is just very beautiful about the spirituality work, is that you show up in full service of people just to help reflect back the magic in them, and then you allow them to move forward and find their brilliance and their magic on their own. But then you're still there in a way to be like, whenever you just need the next set of clarity, the next mirror that you're hiding from, then I'll be here to help you. I think that's a misconception about the spirituality work, is that people think, oh, you're just going to be able to solve all my problems. Well, yes and no. You have to be able to be open to charting forward through those potential challenges. And I'm just going to help you look at A, B, and C. But you have to choose which one, right?
Exactly, exactly. Sometimes people will be like, I think I need a reading. I'm like, you don't need a reading. You need to do the things that we talked about in your last reading, you need to put action some of the changes that we talked about in the last reading. I never let people use readings as procrastination. If you come to me, you got to expect to really want to take back control of your life. I want people to feel empowered to really activate change and really get to the next level, not just talk about getting to the next level. And so if you're not doing the things, I'm always going to tell you. We literally had the same reading last time. I'm not going to allow you to waste your money. But because the cards are going to say the same thing until you do what you're supposed to do, what they're calling you to do.
Sometimes, like, we just don't have all of the information yet for the guidance to even make sense. I've been doing my own divination work for a little over 8, almost 9 years, but I've been in spirituality for, I can't even tell you how long. And I started going to it wasn't my first tarot reading or my first intuitive reading, but I started going to this one particular reader, and it's always funny. She would reflect a similar message that you would, especially if I felt like I was getting stuck in some details that she mentioned, and she would elaborate a little bit further, and then she was just like, I think this needs some time to actually manifest, and then you'll understand maybe the guidance that was coming through. Or at least that's just how I was starting to interpret. Anytime that I felt that I was like, this doesn't make sense, I want to know more, please tell me more, I went through that internal dialogue myself. I was reminding myself that I needed to take a step back and actually wait to see how things were going to unfold. And then maybe I would answer my own questions without needing somebody else to tell me what that meant.
That's the part. That's the part. And I feel like my mission really is to help people to tap into their own intuition and to develop that relationship with their intuition where they don't need to come to me, or like they don't need to come to me as often. I just want people to trust themselves, because nobody's going to know it like you know it. Nobody's going to have the vision like you have it. If I can inspire people to really trust themselves, if I don't see you for a couple months, 6 months, a year, I'm stoked to hear all of your good news when you come back. And sometimes it takes a little while to get there, but depending on what we're healing through or what we're growing through in the moment. But my goal is to have everybody hear themselves so clearly that they're able to confidently make decisions for their lives and confidently take risks that are going to lead them to their next greatest iteration of self.
The way that you do your readings is very special, and I want to talk a little bit about that because I know you offered, when we spoke, you said that there was three different types of ways that you were doing reading. They were live one-on-one, and then I believe you said that you did pre-recorded as well.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, correct.
And then this is where I'm like, as a writer, I feel that this is so unique and I wanted to talk about it, but you said that you do poetry readings.
I do. I do written readings.
And
And yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say do written readings, and they're some of my favorite things to do. When somebody tries one, you're going to get another one because it's just, I don't know. Like I said, I'm a writer. I love words, and I love how you can be so precise with words and imagery and relay a message in a way that's, oh, got it. And people sometimes say that some of the symbolism or imagery comes through very literally in their lives. And they're like, oh, this is redirecting me back to this reading so that I can understand the broader picture. I just love doing them. And you get a picture of the cards when you get a written reading. And I walk through how the cards are trying to tell your story.
I feel that is such a unique way to do it. I've done in-person tarot readings, which my first one, I had absolutely no idea what the tarot cards meant because I hadn't dove deep on my own to understand what the cards meant, the suits, all of the things, all of the imageries that are embedded into tarot and have been for centuries, mind you. The history behind tarot is so fascinating.
So fascinating.
But one of the things that I think is so unique and profound about doing a written reading is because you're creating the story for the person. And regardless of what type of person, we are constantly around stories. If you have an internal dialogue, you storyline your own life in ways to make sense of past, present, and future. And so it's like stories are embedded into who we are. It's embedded into society and humanity, how we shape and mold our own lives. And so when you have somebody coming to maybe say their first tarot reading or their first intuitive reading, they are like, I have absolutely no idea what these cards mean. And at that point, you're relying on the reader to really tell you the information. But with something like a written reading, you are blending both of them. You're like, here's the cards, here's what I picked up from the cards, here's the imagery of the cards, but then you're storylining that in a way that I feel is way more connected into how the information is received.
I think so too. I don't know if you remember, but when I start a reading with a new client, I always say, I don't do a traditional spread. I just let the cards fly and tell the story that we most need to hear. Because it's about telling our karmic story and laying it out in front of us. And it's like, where are we at in the story right now? Because that's really what we're doing here. We're just living out these individual stories. And sometimes you just need a plot point reset. You just need to know where you are in the story. I love doing all the forms of readings, to be honest, but written readings are very, very fun.
I will say, doing the one-on-one reading with you, I love the interaction part of that, because when you were channeling some of the information in the back of my mind, I was like, yep, I know exactly what you're referencing here. I know where that's probably coming through. And then I'm sure you could see these aha light bulb moments going off in my facial expressions. But then we were able to kind of talk through it, and you were like, yes, okay, that makes more sense. I was able to give you real life context, why certain things were coming up. And that is magic in itself. But like I said, for maybe somebody who was maybe getting started with working with an intuitive guide, that written reading, especially with the poetry nature and really speaking the desire into that reading of what that person's wanting to know or what they're trying to work through, I think it's just a juicier way to receive and reflect that reading and really know that it is close for them. And I think that brings us back to that desire component too. Sometimes if we can see this story in front of us and read the story, reflect on the story, and really put ourselves at the center of that story, that's what makes the desire so close.
Exactly. It's always right there. It's just waiting for us to grab it. It really is.
Well, I loved hearing more about your spiritual journey, and I can kind of echo some of that to a degree, but spirituality, there's just something so unique and so wonderful to it that you really can apply it and learn it in any way that feels most comfortable or most connected for you. And so thank you for sharing a little bit about what that story was like for you. What are some of the ways that spirituality, or even doing your own intuitive work for yourself, what channels has that opened up for you outside of wanting to help people step into their desires and find their path forward to their dreams?
I think it's just made me a more confident person in the world. I feel like a lot of the intuitive work that I've done for myself has really just been learning how to communicate with my guides. No one really taught me any of this stuff, right? It's stuff that's just really come through birthright. It's come through my DNA lineage, all of that. And it's something that I've had to remember at a soul level, like how to connect in with my guides, how to trust myself to take a next step or to get uncomfortable. A lot of this stuff is just me figuring it out as I go along. I'm right in the mix with you, the middle part of my own story. And I think just trying to be like more proud about being a spiritual person and not having it be something that we hide. What are we? It's in 2026. You got Instagram. And so there's a bunch of spiritual people and people doing spiritual arts on the internet. It's becoming a bigger thing, a thing that resonates. Even just 10 years ago, it was kind of weird. And so it was something that we hid. And I think A lot of the work that I've done for myself has just been encouraging, being out and proud about being a spiritual person, about being a conduit, being a channel, and encouraging other people through that confidence to be like more tapped in and tuned in to their own spirituality and what that means for them. And it's not going to look like mine. It's not going to look like anyone else's necessarily. No two altars are the same, right? So I might be losing track of the question a little bit, but I think it's helped me to be more confident in my own life. I don't tell anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do. I would never suggest to anyone that they do something that I wouldn't do. And so if I'm encouraging people to live out loud and live in their true authenticity, I need to make sure that I'm also living in that truth as well.
That right there, all of that. There's two anchor points to what you just said. That right there is what makes you an incredible person to work with, because I feel that there's a level of, like you were saying, authenticity in that. Some of the best people that I have ever worked with are so humble, and they acknowledge, I am very much in this stage with you as I'm trying to guide you. And some people can look at that as polarizing or different, but it's like we are all in our own messy middle. And it's like community, real community is people who are approaching the work together in their own ways, and each bringing their own uniqueness to the dynamic, because that's how true support happens in that dynamic. And so I just loved what you spoke, that you were like, if I'm trying to help people find their path forward in their work or stepping into their most magical, authentic self, then I have to be honoring this in myself as well. And I'm very excited that in 2026, there are more people who are owning their spirituality. And it's so sad that a lot of people aren't, because I still feel a little, I don't want to say self-conscious, but silly when I really talk about how spiritual I am with tools and different connections, because we all have had those conversations where we're like, I'm going to own a part of this right here. And we've probably have gotten weird looks or heard from those people again. And you're like, ooh, should I have kept that to myself? Maybe, but then no.
What I've learned about saying what I do, saying who I am, saying what my mission in life is, like how I'm showing up in service, what I've learned is that it immediately weeds out misalignments. I feel like we have been trained to entertain misalignments for way too long. And maybe this is perimenopause talking, but as I've gotten older in my life, I don't have time for misalignments. I just don't have the time or the patience to entertain misalignment. So I'd rather you know who I am immediately and what I'm doing here in this incarnation, and be like, oh, that's not for me, or I'm not in that space right now. And cool. That's great. That's fine. Because there are plenty of people that will resonate, that want to grow, that want to connect, that want to create. And I just feel like we just shouldn't hold it back, especially not now. We need light workers to the front, empaths to the front, compassionate people to the front. We are needed.
Absolutely. You know, those emoji hands that shoot up and you're like, are you bowing or what exactly is emoji hands? But I am like, copy, paste, 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 paste.
Yes.
Yeah, they are needed. And going back to what you said, you're like, maybe this is perimenopause talking, but what I felt in that was very much what the postpartum journey has been like with me. I'm 8 months postpartum while we're recording this. And if I thought I was awakened prior to becoming a mother, nothing compares. Nothing compares. It is like any other veil that was over my sight, just completely was like, whoop,
Whoop.
taken off. And there's a reason to that. And I know you're a mother, you have a daughter. Being a mother to even a woman, a child, a girl, a feminine, there is something very profound about being a mother raising a daughter. I haven't been able to put it into words. I'm still working through that.
I think about this a lot. She's one of my eggs. I'm one of my mom's egg. It's like those nesting egg dolls, those nesting Russian egg dolls, you know what I'm talking about? But it's like
Yes.
my complete DNA lineage is all in her, in my daughter. It's like there's no separation between the first mother and my daughter. It's very powerful. It's extremely powerful because I see universes in my kid when I look at her, you know?
Of course, you as her mother are going to go through your own awakenings in order to protect that. And that is, oh my gosh, that's the divine feminine. That is the beauty of the divine feminine. And I love that you said that and so beautifully too. Great image also for those who were trying to connect the dots. The Russian dolls, everybody knows what that looks like, right? And sometimes when we have symbolism to gauge what we're speaking, it really does help kind of bring the pieces together. But there is something so profound to the maternal line. As you were saying, like with my daughter, she was an egg in me through my whole
Your
existence.
whole
And
existence.
then we were both in my mother and then my grandmother, which, my goodness, my grandmother, my connection with her, even now as she's transitioned over, is so profound in a way where I have to be like, let me,
Give me a minute.
let me, sometimes I have to just kind of like dial that back because then they're like, is this your grief process? That it's like, no, it's not. It's something that, unless you've experienced it firsthand, then you actually know how deeply connected we are with our maternal line. But my grandmother, I knew that she was going to be front and center when she transitioned. And I have had multiple encounters where I'm like, you know what? Thank you. Thank you for still choosing to be connected to me and continuing to help me in this life that I still have to live, because it's kind of nice knowing that we're not
You
alone,
have,
even though we
yeah,
know
it's
we're not
nice.
alone.
It's nice to know that our guides are going to show up for us when we need them, you know, and when we
Yeah,
don't, or when we think we don't.
absolutely. Well, that actually sets me up for, I think, another beautiful question for you, because reflecting back on our reading, you were just like, oh, some of your guides, this is what they want you to hear, and this and that. And that alone, it's again, you had not met me before until we had that one on one. And so to know very specific things, just there's no other way to explain that other than you were receiving downloads from guides
Absolutely.
who were in full protection of me. How do you connect with them?
It's a good question because it depends on obviously whose guides, because some people's guides are like loud Italian grandmothers, you know what I mean? So you can't help but hear them. And then some people's guides, they come through as birds or sounds that I'm hearing. I'm like, what is that? And if it's an auditory thing, how do I explain the sound? It sounds like muffled in the background. And if I can get it, it just comes through as words. And I'll often say, sometimes if I watch myself back in a reading, I'll be like, what are they saying? What are they saying? Because I can kind of hear it, but I have to get it. You know what I mean? And also, everything that's happening around me too is always a part of the reading. So sometimes it's something that gets said outside wherever I'm doing the reading. And I'm like, okay, that's important because I heard it. If I hear it, then it's important for the reading. So guides are talking in all kinds of different ways. I don't know if this happened in your readings, but sometimes it'll be like something weird will happen on the Zoom. There'll be balloons, and I'm like, I didn't do anything. So the guides, they show up in all different kinds of ways. Sometimes it's a repeat number that I'm seeing in the cards, and it'll be like, oh yeah, that was my dad's birthday. And I'm like, oh, okay, your dad wants you to know something, and then that'll tell me to pull cards. Sometimes it'll happen that somebody will just take over the reading. The messages will be all about a story from their timeline. And they'll be like, oh, wait, that's my mom coming through. That happened to her. Because the guides want you to actually know that it's them coming through. So they'll give you something that's very specific and very strange. And I'll be like, I'm going to say it because that's how they're giving it to me. And somebody will be like, oh, yep, that's it. They're here. And I'm like, okay.
I love it. It's just there's so many different ways. One of the things that I'll touch a little bit about our reading, because I wanted to talk a little bit about it because I think it's unique and it gives some context to the connection that we have here today. But you had actually three things that are coming to mind right now. You had said numbers. The number 33 came up. The next morning, which again, I had been seeing 333 everywhere in all of these different ways. And so when you were like, oh, this card I feel is significant and the number is 33, maybe that means something. And I'm like, yeah, it does because I've been seeing it everywhere. And then sure enough, the next morning I had went to go and get coffee. And in all of the ways that I've done that path hundreds of times, it all had just come together in a way where I'm like, yeah, okay, so this energy, this frequency is still very present because here it is. I mean, I'm telling you, different car license plates were coming together and in a way of 333. And I'm like, yeah, okay, message received, got it. And I was like laughing at this point. And then I get back home, I open up my computer, I email you to say thank you so much. I've been buzzing and laughing at all the things that have continued. And then as soon as that email was sent, you had then
You said,
emailed
I know,
me.
we emailed the same
And I
exact
am
time.
like, oh my goodness. And then I look at the password to go back to the reading, and you had put 333. And I was like, see?
That's the thing. I just try to be like in everything, even when I do the passcodes for the readings, I'm like, I channel it in. I'm like, what's the best one for this reading? I want everything to be super intentional. So when you go back to that reading, and I forget what I put your password as, right? But when you go back to the reading, it's like, that's the energy that you're going to embody when you re listen to that reading, if you ever decide to. That's where you were at that point in the story, what you were trying to cultivate. You know, it's all super intentional.
When I tell you, I was giggling all morning. I was like, see, you can't make this stuff up. And I know some people are like, oh, it's just all coincidental. Mm-mm.
No.
Mm-mm. Not when it all happens. It becomes a language at that point where you're just like, see, why did my eyes choose to pan upward in order to see that number in that specific moment? Or why did I think to email you at the same time that you were also working on an email to me? That energy, it was communicating with both of us in that moment. You can say it's coincidental, but I think it's so much deeper, and it just shows just how connected the guides are with us in that moment, but then also bringing a message through that we needed to hear. And what I love about that reading was you had told me, you were like, you need to start wearing something on your head when you're around large amounts of people. And I am like, tell me more, because when I tell you, I am like, how do I transmute and kind of lessen the energy a little bit? I had been searching my own guidance for that. And you were like, I think you need to wear something on your head. And I'm like, tell me more. You have my undivided attention, because I had been struggling with that, talking about becoming a mother and saying this veil. It literally feels as if this veil had come off from my sight and all of my senses. And sometimes it's hard to be around a lot of energy because everything is open. All of the channels are open for me right now. And so for you to say that, I was like, see, I didn't even show up to that reading wanting to know that in that moment. I figured I'll need to put a couple things into practices. Maybe I need to do some incantations. I don't know. And you're like, you need to wear something on your head around people. And I'm like, yep, that is for me, for sure.
And that's the thing. Sometimes we know that there's something, but we're just overcomplicating it for ourselves. And the message just could be so easy, you know? And so now it's like, when you start feeling that, you just go ahead and put a kerchief on, put a hat on, keep your bonnet on all day. It can be so simple.
And, you just echoed back to something that actually just came to mind from that reading. I told you a little bit about one of the projects or the new identities that I've wanted to step into. And I had been toying with potentially investing into 2 different types of programs, thinking that's what I needed in order to make that chapter happen. And you were like, nope, you just need to do it. You just need to do it. You need to send out the pitches and you wait for the invitation, which that is something that really resonated with me, because being a projector in human design, we're all about doing aligned conscious action and then moving forward with the invitations that are in full alignment of what it is that we know that we're looking to serve, or how we're looking to serve through those invitations. And sometimes I do get stuck thinking that I need somebody else to do it for me. I need somebody else to affirm it in me. I need somebody else and their expertise to help me get there. And I'm sure that if I was to invest in either one of these programs, it would be incredible. I'd have an amazing experience. It would have been well worth the investment because I trust these people. I see their brilliance. I see their magic in the work that they do. But you had told me what I felt I really needed to hear in that moment was it could be as simple as testing it myself first, because that's what I hadn't given myself permission to do, is just to see if I can get myself there first.
So you got to see what you need before you start investing in all these things that you think you need, before you know what you need, you know?
Yeah. Well, I loved this conversation so far, and I wanted to keep an eye on the clock. Is there anything else that you would like to speak to the listeners to today about just trusting their own inner compass? Because I feel that's really what you had shown me in that reading in so many different ways. But is there anything else that you would want to speak to everybody today to really move forward with their desires, their dreams, and trusting themselves along the way?
I just want everybody to know how limitless we really are, like as people who have chosen to be here in this time-space continuum all at the same time. Individually, we can accomplish so much, but when you find your people or when you find somebody who really understands your soul and your spirit, when we actually find each other, when we put ourselves out there so that we can attract and reflect each other, we can do so much. We can change so much. We can create so much. And so I just want to encourage people to really do that thing your heart is calling you to do. Say that thing your heart is calling you to say. Try it on just for a day if you want to. You always wanted to be an author. Try it on for a day. Go sit at the coffee shop and type for a couple of hours and see how you feel. I really just want to encourage people to try it on and see how they feel. It's kind of like this morning, I didn't want to do my 30-minute ride on my bike. And I was like, I don't want to do this, but I know I'm going to feel so good after I do it. And I got through it and I felt amazing by the time I got to the end of my workout. I just felt so good. And I was so excited and so proud and ready to do it again tomorrow. And so just try it on. Just try it on. Try on that desire for a day and see where it gets you.
That is so beautiful. Love it. Thank you so much. I want to just tell everybody kind of how we got connected. So I had hosted a holiday gift guide for the podcast, which anyone listening, if you listen to that episode, you'll know exactly what campaign I'm referencing. And I got so many pitches for this campaign. And what I do is I save every single pitch, every pitch that I've gotten of a podcast guest, every pitch for any different media campaigns, I've always saved them, because even if I'm not able to get to them during the timeline that I need to produce and get something published to honor the timeline and the calendar, I always save the pitches, because I am like, there, I'm sure, is somebody that I need to connect to if I wasn't able to get to them. And sure enough, I had this idea of bringing on an intuitive guide to talk about readings on the podcast. And then within a week or two, then I saw your email and I am like, thank you, universe. You brought me exactly who I wanted to connect with, because now you've just affirmed that this idea is worth it. And now here we are. I've had the amazing opportunity to be in your energy and to get your insights of what you were able to channel for me. And now I get to bring your brilliance to the podcast. So I am so glad you sent me that pitch that day.
It's so funny because that's literally the first and only time I've ever responded to any of those. And it's just so happened that you responded back. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I've been wanting to get on a podcast for a year. And I'm like, this is it. This is my chance. I'm always telling people, if the opportunity presents itself and you've been asking for it, you got to say yes. And here we are.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Again, when you're talking about nothing is coincidental, you were like, I have this desire and I'm going to wait for the right opportunity. And I am like, ooh, I really would love to be in this conversation. I'm going to wait until I get the right connection. And then all it took was that day. All it took was that day for me to look in the right place and feel that, yep, this is what's meant to be. Thank you. Thank you, universe. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, universe. Thank you, guides. Yes. Thank you, source. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so honored to know you, and I cannot wait to do that written reading. I cannot tell you how many times I've thought about that since our conversation, and I know exactly what it's meant to be about. So you will be hearing from me about that here soon.
I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to do it.
Well, lastly, for anyone who wants to connect with you, either for their own reading or maybe just to even bring your voice to their platforms, just because I love to open up a dedicated space for connection, how can people connect with you and who are you looking to connect with today?
Oh, I love that. So you can find me at cloud9intuitive.com. Nine is spelled out Nine because my name is Janine. So cloud9intuitive.com. I'm also on Instagram, cloud9intuitive. And I have a Patreon, which I love my patrons. I'm so thankful for all of my patrons. But if you want weekly collective readings and full moon updates and new moon updates and things of that nature, come check me out on Patreon. It's Cloud9Intuitive there as well. And I am interested in meeting anyone who is looking for clarity, insight, and guidance and to tap in with their own intuition more deeply. If you're on a spiritual journey in your life or you are on a level up in your career, transitioning in any major way or minor way, come see me. I think people don't come to me by accident. So if you feel called, you'll know it. And I'll see you soon.
And for everyone listening, you will always be able to find information on the guest down in the show notes. And Janine, thank you again so much for being here. I am so honored that you followed your own nudge to reach out, and that brought us here today.
Thank you, Ashley. It's been my blessing. I really appreciate the chance to be here and connect with your audience.